It kind of really doesn't fit with anything in the book. Not that organized this time. I think this is briefly mentioned in your textbook, but not really anything beyond that. But it's kind of, I will say this though, I'm going to be cutting out some notes today, so wait before you write everything down, okay? Stick with me, don't go too far ahead. If you write something that I don't tell you to, fair enough? How's the temperature? It's a bit toasty. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful little thing. I turned it off, so it should be cooling down. I turned off the radiator. I couldn't actually do that before, but the nice man from downstairs came up and fixed it, so that's pretty cool.
Did you fix your roof on your window?
No, he actually hasn't fixed that yet. No more birds, thank goodness. Don't have to call any more Marines to come up here and grab birds out of my window. Heard from the window.
That was stuck in my foot.
Do what?
I'm calling the bird whisperer, bring the bird whisperer.
Is there anything set up to join the U.S. Marine Corps? So we get this okay? All right, moving on. All right, don't write all this down. Basically, this chapter, what it's worth, this section, this thing I'm going over today, is explaining why the Industrial Revolution began in Great Britain. The thing we have to understand, it's like any other movement, you know. It's like the Renaissance or the Enlightenment. It starts somewhere and kind of disseminates out. And the Industrial Revolution, at its heart, what it's really about is using machines wherever possible, you know. Replacing people, replacing animals, replacing as much of stuff as possible with machines. That's industrialized. So we have to first understand there are certain things necessary for these machines. Obviously, we need the technology. We'll get to that here in a second. However, we also have to be able to have the building blocks, if you will, the resources. So Great Britain had a lot of resources that other countries did not have. So, for instance, the first of these factors are natural resources. That's all you need from this. Except, what resources? What resources do they have? And that's it. Coal and iron. Now, those of you who've been playing full steam ahead should know why we need these two things. Why do we need iron? Yeah.
It's more stronger than wood.
Right. It's stronger than wood. Furthermore, it's not flammable. That's kind of important when we employ fire as a principal means of propulsion. But also, it's flexible. It's made into steel. You see, one of the principal things about steel is that it must be able to flex. Whether you're talking about an iron sword or yeah, an iron sword or a building, you need it to do this.
Oh, put that on. Oh,
Now, notice though, it's straight again, yeah? That's because it is both strong but flexible.
Wait,
Yes.
so if a burglar came or something like somebody intruder, would you get that?
yeah, I'm gonna put that for that toy. So the telecomer thing.
Yeah, would you like start cutting on
Burglar. Are we talking Bilbo Baggins, or are we talking, who are we talking about here?
If someone like came into school, we'd be like, put that on.
It's
start charging?
Yeah, and use that shit. Or use that.
that's that's how it's going
There's a
down.
gun back there.
But yeah, that can't fire. One, there's no gun
You
powder.
like get out of the school.
I got a old 69, 114-year-old gun. That's not crazy either.
Make a big shield and be like,
Yeah.
how can you turn it down?
Well, that show's not bulletproof. But anyways, I mean, 22, yeah, I bounce off of this, but you know, like 44 or something like that. 9 later, though. Anyways, but if you guys have ever been on a really tall building and you feel like, man, it feels like it's moving, it's because it is. Yeah, the winds are constantly pushing on it, but it's made with steel. So that as you move, it flexes, but it doesn't break. It goes back to where it's supposed to be. It's not going to break. That's not how it goes. Seriously, think about this. The Twin Towers in 9/11, they got hit by the equivalent of like 15 missiles. It stayed up. It eventually took the jet fuel melting the girders for it to lose enough structural integrity to come down. That's like a crazy engineering, you know? Yeah.
The leaning tower of Pisa, what is that made out of?
It's not leaning because it's broken. It was built on very soft soil. It doesn't go all the way to bedrock. It doesn't go all the way to solid foundations. So the foundations are actually sinking. That's what caused that. It's not sinking. If you look up leaning tower Pisa.
Is bedrock is non-cracked, can it actually not break?
No. It definitely can. It's just it's not going to move from the way you build it.
You put non-cracked?
Used to. I actually have it on my computer. I used to use it when I was talking about industrialization as an example of moving from farming and things like that. Actually, I looked into that. I was going to have a Minecraft server. We were going to build things, but we can't actually. We don't have the capability. All right. I was going to build something. I've seriously never showed this to you guys.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah, I have a few. I'll show you guys the Greek one. I'm not sure if I had this. Well, that's not really, that's a war story. My blades aren't sharp. I don't think they're sharp. This is a, so anyway, why do we need coal? Alright, you guys know how a steam engine works?
You roll the coal in and it burns and...
Yeah, basically here's how it works. I have a really crappy diagram here. But basically it works like this. You have a firebox. You put a fire in it. You then have a tank of water. You run pipes from your firebox through the tank of water into a smokestack. This basically acts like a chimney. The drawing of the smoke out heats the water. That creates steam. All right, the steam is vented out and is pumped through it, basically through an apparatus of vacuum, essentially. It goes through this sort of apparatus into a valve, a piston. Excuse me. That forces the piston down as the steam enters in, and as soon as the piston is fully distended, it trips a lever that shuts off the steam. Well, because it's a vacuum, that steam is no longer providing pressure against the piston, and it goes back. As soon as it comes back in this way, that apparatus is tripped again and opens back up. So it opens, closes, and so on and so forth. That out and in motion can be hooked up to a wheel that will cause it to turn, and then you can hook up any kind of different devices to that. You can hook it up to like a saw, and it'll constantly saw for you. You can hook it up to wheels. It'll constantly turn the wheels, like a train. Any number of things you can hook up to a steam engine. That's a very, very basic design. Who is it that invented the steam engine?
Me.
No.
Thomas Edison.
Nope, you're half right, Thomas.
Edwards.
No,
Bloomberg.
because of the Nin.
Nano.
New Coleman. Thomas Newcomen. We'll get to him. We'll get to Edison. It was perfected by James Watt, both of whom are Scottish. So the technology necessary for the Industrial Revolution is created where?
Scotland.
Which is part of
Ireland.
Great Britain. Yeah. So it's part of Great Britain. A totally different place. So this is another reason why it begins here. Now, the second reason is the second agricultural revolution. The first agricultural revolution is something that every Minecraft player eventually undergoes, and that is, I'm tired of killing wild pigs. I'm going to have pigs that I put a fence around, lead them over here, and I'm going to start planting stuff. I'm going to create a little farm here. Yes? No one's ever played Minecraft. That happens all the time, basically. So you create a farm. That's the first agricultural revolution. The second is using machines. That's what we talked about with the seed drill developed by Jethro Tull. That meant that there was a lot of people forced to leave the farms and search for work, and they ended up working where? Factories. Factories are essentially just buildings that you have machines. That's what they are. But that's actually an invention. As weird as that is, that's something we had to think about. Because the general method was this: people work from home. So what am I going to do? I'm going to loan you machines. How's that going to work? The machines are the size of a building. Well, we flip that on its head. You come to me and you work in my factory, and thus we go. However, this meant that factories often would have like little towns next to them, things like that. The first ones are in cities. So people had to move to the city to find work. The other thing is we have to understand the earliest factories had basically three things in common. They were dark, they were dirty, and they were dangerous. They were not nice places to be. They're loud. You know, machines are like constantly rattling and things. People lose their hearing being in there for too long. Also consider this the first industry to industrialize was what? Does anyone know? Was the textile industry. You guys know what textiles are? Fabric, cloth, anything with clothing. Anytime you involve work with textiles, you get lots of dust. See that in action if you've ever gone to your dryer and open up the lint trap. Right? Imagine all that in the air getting in your lungs. Yeah, causes all kinds of problems and cancers and what have you. The other thing is there were no safety precautions on these machines. I don't know if you guys have walked down the third floor, you see all these pictures over by the faculty lounge when you first come in, things like that. There's one that's right by the door that's of kids standing up on a machine, and they're just like kind of doing stuff, and there's like a belt right here, it's like a kid falls into that, it's going to rip their arm off. It happened. There were many children maimed in factories, men, women, and children for that matter, because there were no safety precautions. And the thing is, there were no workers' rights either. If you were, like, say, injured on the job, you couldn't do your job anymore, you're fired. The factory was held to no responsibility for your injury. Now that's going to change, as we're going to see. A lot of things are going to change. Late child labor laws are put in place. We should think about this for just a second. We kind of take for granted that kids shouldn't be, working at a job, because it's not good for them. Work is hard. Work is bad for you. It breaks you down. But on farms, that's kind of a given. On farming, the whole family works. Think about it. If your parents give you chores to clean your room, that's technically child labor. It's just we're okay with some child labor, some not. But from their perspective, a lot of these folks coming off the farms, to them it was no big deal sending kids to go work. If they work at the farms, that's what you do. And they were desperate. They were paid so little wages that they needed everybody to work, all hands on deck, so to speak, to have enough money to eat and live. Yeah. Yeah, please. What you got? Yeah. Go ahead. I was like, yeah, there's lots of questions on this. This is going to be great. Can I go to the bathroom? Yes. Yes, you can.
Do we need to have that third bullet?
Hmm?
The third bullet, do we need to have that?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't say that. My bad. I was distracted by telling you guys stories about like child labor. Yes, you do need that for it.
Oh, are you gonna give your kids toys?
Yeah. I already do.
I can use like this one here to be like.
Usually it's because she wants to help. That's the thing is, kids aren't lazy. We just burn them out on one stuff. You know, it's all about attitude. You know, it's if you can set schedules and things. That's Americans I find are very bad at prioritizing for the most part. You know, we really get obsessed with one thing and kind of stick with it. You know, I think that's something that we just culturally do because we like to get stuff done. But often, like at a young age, you know, it's almost like everyone's trained to be ADD. You know, it's just kind of how it works out. But you know, it's because we've got so much going on. You know? I don't think. I mean, I think if we really analyze that, I said like, are you guys lazy? Like, yeah, probably. I was like, I doubt really that would be true. I mean, how many of you guys do like extracurricular activities? Some of you guys maybe have jobs, you know. You guys go to school full time. It's like, that's not really lazy. Inefficient would probably apply to a lot of us, but I mean, that's everybody. You know what I mean? That's like I was talking to you guys about doing homework and just sitting and doing it all and then you're done. How like nobody does that. Anyway, that's way more, really, good job. I asked the class earlier at one point, maybe I didn't ask you guys, maybe I asked another class, but I was like, you know, how long do you think it would take you to do homework if you just sat and did nothing but your homework? Most of us like, probably take me about an hour. So how much time do you spend doing homework? Like about 3 hours? Like, why would you do that? I didn't hear it, I don't think I want to know. I would like to point out that was recording, so that's going on the internet for posterity, whatever it is. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's just gonna play. Like when you like slide up on the thing and it's like the play button.
I really did not hear what it was. I'm pretending that it was something about kittens.
Yeah, it was about
Yes,
anaconda.
yes, anacondas. I think I now know what that was. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and pretend I forgot. Don't write all this. Oh, Lord. All right, so first. I can't think, you guys are talking. Crazy. We talked about technology, so you guys already have that. The next factor, though, is economics. Now, the thing you have to couple up from this is there's a lot of capital. Okay, what's capital again? Money! And you need money to do what?
Buy things.
True, but if you're a business person, you need to make a business. Yeah, and you gotta have money to make money, right? So how do you get money if you don't have money? No. Unless you want to go to jail. Yeah, loans, right? Investments. You know? Investing is how you get money if you're a business. Yes. Basically, there was a lot of capital in Britain due to the trade that they dominated. They were a trade empire. They had a lot of money coming in. That meant they had the perfect amount of cash to invest in a lot of these new opportunities. Now, I'm going to talk more about culture later, so don't ignore this for right now. But culturally, we're in a time period known as the Victorian era. And there's a lot of cultural specifics that became part of the identity of the average British person during this era. For instance, hard work was one of them, so that fuels into this. They also were generally what we consider modest people. However, that also is kind of crap. They were outwardly modest, but at the same token, if you look at like ball gowns, things like that, they had plunging necklines and all kinds of salacious things. So it just depends on the situation. Yeah, or lycacious, I guess is the word. Lascivious. Anyways, increased demands is another factor. But again, don't really worry about it. We're not talking about that right now. The major thing, though, fourth thing, is that Britain had a stable government. Its military was the navy that basically every other navy wanted to be like when they grew up. Their government was not in the process of splitting apart due to nationalism. So they had everything necessary to industrialize. However, their attempts to keep it to themselves, not going to work so much. This doesn't really apply. I didn't really set this to fit with any section in the book. This is explaining where this is starting and kind of from there. If it does happen to line up, then great. But I wasn't paying attention to that, to be honest. So, these factors lead to Britain industrializing. And as we said, the first industry to really come to Britain, you need all this, is the textile industry, clothing. There's two inventions that end up changing the textile industry in Great Britain. The first is the flying shuttle, developed by John Kay. I believe it was in 1790 or something like that. You guys know how a loom works? A loom is how you make fabric. If you go to a fabric store and you have wide bolts of fabric, you make that on a loom. So what a loom is basically a frame, and you have strings, threads really, going up and down. So it makes almost like looks like guitar strings or a harp or something like that. And you take a little piece of wood called a shuttle that has more string on it, and you weave it up and down, up and over. And then once you get across, you push it tight to the bottom, and then the loom has these little fingers that you can pull down, and it tightens it at the bottom. Then you go back the other way and smash it down. The other way, smash it down. So you create eventually this flat piece of fabric. Okay? It's slow. Fast loomers can go like crazy fast, like it's unbelievable. Fast weavers, technically would be the term. But the flying shuttle is way faster. It's an automated shuttle. Okay? The other thing is we have to spin the fabric. Okay? You guys know all fabric comes from fibers that are natural, yes? At least at this time period. We can also man-make fibers, but for the most part it's taken from either plants or animal hair that we have to carve and spin together. You guys have probably seen a spinning wheel before, yes? So you make thread that on that thing. The spinning jenny, which was developed by James Hargreaves, is an automated spinning wheel. It not only spins more quickly, but it can actually spin multiple threads simultaneously. Ooh, fancy. So we can create thread at a much faster rate than had ever been possible, which means clothing can be cheaper. I must admit, the whole idea that we can replace clothes is only possible due to industrialization, as much as we do. Consider this. How much clothing do we have? Yeah. I know, right? If you had to guesstimate how many outfits you have, could you do it? I don't really think I could either. I mean...
Oh, outfits?
Depends on how, like, can you make that?
Yes. I mean, just think about this. How many pairs of pants do you have?
Like pants, shorts,
All of the above. How many shirts do you have? Yeah. I mean, all this stuff is you keep going, you know? And the thing is, if one is broken or tears, what do we do with it? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it depends. I think it also largely depends, right? You know, like if you split a pair of pants down the seam, you just sew it back. You know, easy peasy. But if like something has like a gash in it, a lot of people just.
Didn't you put a patch on it then?
You can, yeah. And some people do, you know. I think it also, again, largely depends on what it is, but, you know, we have the option of just going and buying something new. You know what I mean? And a lot of us do. A lot of us waste clothes. Like, we have so many, and we're like, I'm going to throw them away now. Or donate, as the case may be. And it's funny is that clothes can last a very, very, very long time, depending on the situation and usage. I have dress shirts that I had when I was at St. Anne's. I can't wear them anymore. I've given most of them away, but I do have some of them, you know. They can still be worn. It's just a lot of people choose not to, whether because of style or because they outgirth them. You know, they get flat hats. But anyways, you know, this was not always the case in history. Most people, when they had these clothes, would try to preserve their outer garments as much as possible. Undergarments were specifically made to act as a barrier between your body and the outside world. Yeah. Yes. You know, so they would wear out faster, whereas the other clothes would preserve longer because they were expensive. Industrialization starts to change all that. You don't need to do that anymore, so you can replace them. They're cheaper. They're also better made. So, revolutionizes the world, man. That's the flying shuttle. Again, the way this would operate is you've got this spool of thread in the center, and it would go back and forth, and it would wind, essentially. So again, it was much, much faster. That's the spinning jenny. Pretty interesting gizmo, isn't it? Which thing I think is pretty funny about a lot of this stuff, and many of you guys have discovered from playing Full Steam Ahead, these guys weren't like expert manufacturer maker. You know, they didn't have like ingrained knowledge of machines. They had to do this through trial and error. Will this work? No. Will this work? No. Will this work? No. And they kept at it. I believe it was Thomas Edison who said he found out 99 ways how to not make a light bulb. Because he kept trying to make it and would keep failing. Eventually he figured it out. But it took him a long time. That's the same thing with a lot of these engineers. And a lot of them were competitors. You know, there's a lot of money to be made during this era for producing the better machine. Take Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. These were two scientists who were doing experiments with electricity. Specifically, the possibility of using electricity to brighten homes. Guys, do you guys know how most people lit their homes in the Victorian era? Actually, candles had fallen out of favor. They were inefficient. It was natural gas. You go to old houses, you will sometimes see these things, these lights, these little keys that you would actually turn on the gas and light. Think about that for just a second. Yes, it could. It happened quite frequently. It's pretty freaking dangerous, yeah? Electricity is way cleaner and it's way safer. But also, it does something that we have never done before. Something completely unimaginable. Okay? How many of you all are morning people? You get up and you're like, let's go! Okay, hold on. Those of you who aren't morning people, if you had your choice, when would you get up in the morning?
Yeah, I really am.
Afternoon. All right, how late would you stay up till when you go to bed?
On night days,
Why don't you do that? Why not just be a night person? Right?
That is a mature reason. Like, when it's summer and December, like like when we have break, I'm always up to like 3 and sleep till.
You say school. One of the things you'll realize as we go through industrialization is school operates on an industrial calendar to some extent. However, we're also tied very strongly to farming. Think about this. Let's take away all artificial light. You're up when the sun begins to rise. Go to bed when the sun sets. That's just how it has to be. There's no light otherwise. You can't see. You know?
I'm going to bed at like 6:30
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Because winter's the time to rest. You're not out there playing. You're not growing stuff. You're at home. You're hanging out. You do what chores you have to keep the house heated and everything else, and you just hang out. Maybe repair clothes or any other indoor activity. That's why cabin fever is a thing. People go crazy if they're stuck indoors for so long. But we have changed that. Think about the effects that lights have. Just turn on the lights. We can run factories at midnight. In fact, most factories have 3 shifts. They never stop. We can make the day wherever we darn well please. That's what electricity can do. It literally allows us to change the world. Edison developed a type of electricity. It's not really a type of electricity, it's a way of broadcasting electricity called direct current. Nikola Tesla was a competitor and developed alternating current. Now, if you look at these two men, Thomas Edison was not really that great of an inventor, to be perfectly honest. He was a really great promoter. So he was sort of like Steve Jobs. He was very good at selling stuff. Direct current was inferior to alternating current, but he couldn't let Tesla win this competition because whoever won it, whoever the United States adopted as their main form would collect money through their patents. So he began a media campaign slandering Tesla, making him seem like he was crazy and that this was really dangerous. And oh, by the way, you remember that when that happened in Prestige? It totally did. Those of you guys who didn't see it happen. And, it worked to some extent. Actually, now we use a combination of direct and alternating current because there are flaws to each. But Tesla basically died penniless because of it. And Tesla created a lot of interesting things. He was, for instance, the inventor of the radio, which is kind of important.
That is cool.
Yeah, considering cell phones, all that sort of stuff, it's a type of radio wave. So it's all forms of radiation, but still. His works created a lot of things that we base it on. And so did Edison. That's the thing, is these were businessmen as much as anything else. Another thing I will say about David Bowie in his presentation of a Tesla in the movie, if you look at Tesla in the movie, he's weird. Just like he's a weird guy. The one guy shows up and says, hey, nice to meet you. And he's like, our bodies are producing electricity. Have you eaten? And he's just like, this guy's crazy. He was in real life. He was known for being a little bit weird. He fell in love with a pigeon, for instance.
No, I didn't.
Oh, hi, though.
What?
Pigeons are hot.
What's his name?
You can look it up. And it wasn't like he did anything untowards with the pigeon. It was more like this pigeon understands me.
Oh my God, we are the same person.
Whoa.
Not like that.
Whoa, dude. Whoa. You can look it up. It's your story, bro. But,
We need both of these.
yes. Tesla was an interesting dude. But electricity can change everything. Guys, think about this. If we really want to, there's nothing stopping our society from saying, yeah, we're just going to go 24/7. In fact, it makes sense. Consider this. What if we went to 3 shifts of school?
I'd cry.
I'll drop out and do something else. You don't even want to know, I'll do something else.
No. You wouldn't be there all 3 shifts. That's not how it works.
Oh.
What I'm saying is that you could use one school and have 3, basically full schools of students in one building. Yeah, you could start school, like, let's see, like, okay, so the first shift, let's say it's the normal shift, right? So you're ending at 3 o'clock. So that means the next class would start around 4.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Get out at midnight. I mean, seriously, you could, it's something we could do. We have the technology to do it. We don't, for other reasons, but it's fascinating because that's kind of what, happens with factories. Now we can be much more efficient. The other thing that's fascinating about that, guys, by the way, when you get to college, you get to pick your schedule. So that's kind of neat. You want to go to school twice a week? You can do that.
Takes longer though.
No. Basically, when you're picking classes, most classes meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So, like, there's a lot of semesters I picked only Tuesday, Thursday classes. I was there for 8 hours, but then I went home. That was kind of neat.
Why can't I do like that?
Well, to be perfectly honest, your parents. It also operates as sort of daycare. Some parents, it feels like they do. Oh, snap. That was rude. I just love how you said
Just
that.
wait till your daughters be like our age. Just wait.
Oh, no, I'm already there. I don't have to wait for nothing. So if you're going back for 6 hours, fantastic. Yeah, but it was the way you said it. It was like, my parents loved me. I have no doubt. Makes you a better person.
I can't tell.
I still love the thing they do in boot camp. You hate this place? So do I.
They yell in your face though.
Well, then they say, you hate this place? Well, drop on the ground and push it away.
You can't do that here.
Yeah. Well, this is your house has a thing that lets you earn a detention. You can either A, take the detention, or B, do push-ups. I like it. Good. Make you strong. So yeah, we talked about all this, didn't we? Well, we talked about the first thing.
I'm just kidding, we probably did.
Was that they needed power to run them so they made machines. But the other thing is, the thing we have to understand about manufacturing is it does 3 things. It makes things more efficiently, cheaper, and at a better price. What I mean to say about this? If you have 2 different competitors, one is making something that's manufactured, the other is making things by hand, the manufactured product is going to be better in every way. Which brings us to an interesting point. We have so much crap in the world, things that are built cheaply. You buy furniture that's like made with particle board. You put your foot through it if you're not careful. Things like that. But here's the thing is, that's not manufacturing. That's not its fault. It's the fault of using bad materials. If you use that by hand making something, it would still be just as bad. Manufacturing makes things better because machines can do things much more finely. Consider this: whenever you're like soldering on a computer chip or something like that, that computer chip might be like this big. A human could do it, but it would be very, very difficult. A machine just goes and does nothing. You know? Consider this. You guys have probably used a glue gun, yeah? Hot glue gun? Is that, all right, that's basically what a 3D printer is. That's more or less how a 3D printer works.
There's a 3D pin.
Yeah, I know.
You see it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Here's the thing is, the machine is better at it than you are, isn't it? Because that's all that it does. Of course it is. But this means we can benefit from the machine making things better, and that makes it better quality. But also we can make it more cheaply because it doesn't take as much time and it's going to waste less materials. It's cool stuff. So let's talk movement. You need all this. First of all, the guy who pioneers the railways is George Stephenson. Railways are going to dramatically change transportation in Great Britain. You see, one of the things you have to understand when it comes to moving stuff, boat is the best way. Transporting stuff by boat is still one of the most efficient because you can get more weight. The most inefficient is by air because lifting things off the ground takes a lot of power. But you can get more places. That's the nice thing about by air. You can take it directly through all kinds of different ways, so it saves time. But if you talk about efficiency, the next best thing is railways. Can you think of what's the problem though? What's the limitation of using trains to transport everything we need?
Can't go over the ocean.
Well, that is one problem, yes. But we have steamships for that. So we don't need to worry about water. What's another problem?
Speed.
Well, trains are fast.
Yeah, we just saw another one.
True. Well, we can go long distance with trains as well. Think about how do trains get where they go?
On the railroad.
On the railroad, yeah, on tracks. They can only go where the tracks are already laid. So they're limited in where they can go. Cars can go just about anywhere because roads are just about everywhere. They face a lot of the same problems, but not as limited. So there's degrees of efficiency. One of the guys you've been looking a lot into is a man named Isambard Kingdom Brunel. He was an engineer who developed steamships. You guys have been kind of seeing through the woodworks as we've been playing full steam ahead. But also he was a pioneer in the British Railways. Yeah.
How come, like, cars, you have a speed limit, but then like the cars go right past the speed limit? Like,
Well,
over
because
100.
speed limits vary depending on where you are.
I know, but I want to know the place where you go over 100.
Germany,
Yeah, I know
the Autobahn.
Really?
Yeah, there's a few roads where there's no speed limit. It's very dangerous. Because the thing is that, again, a human being is not real good at reacting to things that fast. Not to mention it's really easy to lose your grip. Think about it this way. If you guys have been in a car whenever a tire or something goes flat or has a blowout, it's no big deal if you're going 35 miles an hour. You just kind of have a bump and you have to pull over to the side of the road. If you're going 100 miles per hour, it can actually cause you to spin out and flip over. So that's why we generally don't do that. You don't need to do that. They have lanes.
Oh, I think you said they did.
Yeah, they do. They have speed limits too. It just depends on. I think they may have a couple kind of like the Autobahn. But, no, it's the same.
I think that's what, it's the one that has.
Yeah, that's in Germany.
My dad said in Paris, they raised their gas prices up so they wouldn't have like a lot of drivers.
Yeah, one thing also is culturally they tend to buy smaller cars, so they don't really worry about speed. The other thing is they don't apparently have as many straightaways as we do, so it's not as tempting to explore. But yeah, again, it also depends where you're at. Paris, it's a metropolitan area. I'm trying to speed in downtown New York. It's not going to happen. But yeah, it's absolutely true. But the railway, though, is the first thing. It's all about speed. It's all about getting things more efficiently, faster, all this good stuff. However, Robert Fulton in 1807 first applies this to using it to a riverboat. Because again, water is the most efficient way. And the thing we have to understand is there's a principal advantage to using steam power over sails. What's that? Yeah, there's no wind. Also consider this. What happens when the wind turns against you? Yeah, you can go a 45-degree angle, but that's really time-consuming. It takes time. It's tacking. If you use a steam engine, you just keep going. You know, you're only limited in range by how much water and coal you have. So steam engines revolutionize the world in that regards. However, this also means that they need to have a lot of outposts. Just like when we talk about going around Africa back in the age of discovery, they do the same thing, but they have little depots where you can go and restock on coal and water, so you can keep going. So that's like gas stations, essentially. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things. This is the rocket, the first steam locomotive ever developed, and it was actually the first train to actually kill somebody as well. A member of Parliament was watching it do its thing, and it ran over it. So, no dice there. Yeah, I know, right? But this is that same basic design. You can kind of see how that works. You know, you got the coal behind the train. You shuttle in the firebox. It went a blistering 16 miles per hour. Woo! So fast. But compared to horses, much faster. And it's only going to get faster from there. Hey! Right?
I know.
Everyone just gave you the evil inside. How dare you? How dare you, man? The thing I love about this is it's still operational, and you can go on it. I think it's really cool if you go, like, you can actually go and watch the steam engine doing its thing, and you kind of get a feel for, like, man, this is kind of dangerous. Like, you know, it was kind of pioneering. It was great and wonderful, but I mean, at the same time, there's a lot that could go wrong.
Can you get on it like whenever? That was
Well,
only once for a filter.
Yeah, I mean,
They have demos.
they have, yeah, such things like that, and like little shows, like a live bands, kind of things like that. It's like, you know, but these are the steam ships I was talking to you guys about, and I think it's really cool because, first of all, this is a photograph. That's just kind of, again, it's like one of those, this is a window back into the past. But also, you can kind of see through that. That's because this was long exposure. And what happens with the paddle wheel? They're turning, right? So that meant that it was moving and has that kind of a ghostly image to it. It's a ghost wheel! Ah! But again, this technology is going to continuously improve, though they still had sails, because again, efficiency, you know? They used a mix of both. As well, you guys know. Alright, that's it for today. Eventually, yes. Eisenberg King Brunel was one of the first to actually use it on the SS Great Britain. Yeah, and then they actually started using screw propellers, which are also different. All right.